No DQ Galaxy, we are live with a recap of Friday Night Smackdown for October 18th, 2024. Shout out to everybody watching this, whether it's live or on demand. We are getting closer to the Crown Jewel Premium Live event. Now, let's talk about what happened. This was a Bloodline heavy edition of SmackDown. We had a recap shown of everything that went down last week, and then on Raw, when Jey Uso went over to Raw and tried to get Jey to help out him and Roman Reigns, but Jey wanted no part of it. We opened up the show with Wade Barrett and Corey Graves doing commentary this week. Michael Cole, I believe they said he was on assignment. We had the Bloodline coming down to the ring. Solo told everybody to acknowledge him. He said that he made a bigger and stronger Bloodline. He said that Roman Reigns cannot do anything about it. Jey doesn't want anything to do with it. Solo said the beatdowns will continue until Roman Reigns acknowledges him and does so by the end of the evening. And this led to the Yeet Man, Jey Uso, making a surprising appearance. I was not expecting Jey Uso to appear on this show. Jey Uso got a massive reaction. The crowd was reacting to him like an international crowd would. They were really into the Yeet. Jey Uso, he's a superstar. He came into the ring. He said he's not there to fight Solo Sikoa. He still cares about Solo. And he wants Solo to think about what Solo is doing to the family. Jey mentioned how he left the Bloodline to be his own man. But on that note, the Ula Fala is earned. It's not taken. And Jey said if Solo wants to take it from Roman, so be it. But do not divide the family any further. And Solo responded by saying that he's not dividing the family. He is uniting the family. Solo said he's not Jey's little brother. He is the tribal chief. And there is a place for Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, but they have to acknowledge him. Jey questioned why Solo brought in the new guys, the Tongas and Jacob Fatu. Said there's a reason why Roman Reigns and the old Bloodline stayed away from those guys. As Jey was talking here, Jacob was staring him down, and Jey did not appreciate it. And he says the next time he sees Solo, it will be a different story. Very interesting opening segment. I figured Jey Uso would not get involved. Now he's somewhat getting involved in it, and we'll talk more on Jey Uso here in just a few moments. I did think it was a very interesting segment to start off the show. Definitely adds some more layers to this story and definitely moves things along as we get closer to Crown Jewel and Survivor Series. Built up a little bit of tension between Jey and Jacob. Now, I do want to give a shout out to Building Nexus, who sent in a $2 super chat. Thank you for that. Says, maybe the Bloodline will screw Jey Uso on Raw. I did think that, but let me talk about what happened in the other segments on the show. It certainly is a possibility. We'll see what happens, but I'll address this a little bit more later on in the stream as we talk about the other segments that happened with the Bloodline. Thank you for that, Building Nexus. We had our first match of the evening. We had 2 triple threat matches on SmackDown, and then the winners of each triple threat facing each other next week to determine number 1 contenders for the tag team titles. In other words, coming up with a way to get more people on the show. Hey, it's a 2-hour show. You got to try to get these guys on as much as possible. So the first triple threat match was DIY versus the Street Profits versus Pretty Deadly, the Yes Boys. Now things quickly broke down. Montez Ford was on fire, coming over the top with a big splash, but then tried to come back in the ring, coming off the top, but got hit with a knee from Ciampa. Then Pretty Deadly slowed the pace down for a while. They gave Ciampa a double code breaker, and then after the break, Ciampa busted out the air raid crash, but then Montez Ford immediately came off the top with a 450 splash. Gargano made the save, and then things broke down again. We had the Profits with a Doomsday Blockbuster to Prince of Pretty Deadly, and then DIY hit the meet in the middle to Wilson, and there was a double pin. The referee counted. It was confusing. Both teams got the win. What's going on here? But as it turns out, the referee confirmed with the announcer that the legal man was Wilson. And because of that, DIY picked up the victory. Now, I enjoyed the match, and I actually do like the finish of this. It was something we don't see in every match. That's one reason why I liked it. People were a bit confused by it, but it did make sense. Technically, Wilson was the legal man, so the DIY pin was the legal pin. And you could say Street Profits maybe got screwed over. It was a way to protect them, and I liked it. I actually did like the finish of this one. Backstage, Roman Reigns and Jimmy Uso arrived, and they just happened to run into Jey Uso, and they talked a little bit. Reigns said he's proud of Jey, but Jey brought up what Reigns said last week, the no yeet. He had a very disappointed look on his face and walked off. And Roman basically told Jimmy, I told you so, about Jimmy. And more on them in just a moment. It was revealed backstage that Tiffany Stratton had the flu. That was what they said. And because of that, Nia Jax was told by general manager Nick Aldis to find a new partner for a tag team match against Bayley and Naomi. And as it turns out, Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell came in, and Candice, who is the women's speed champion, yes, that's actually a thing. Speed is still going on. Candice offered her services. Nia wasn't thrilled about it, but Nick Aldis booked the match anyways. And we'll talk about that here in just a moment. We had Piper Niven with Chelsea Green against Lash Legend, who is getting a little bit of a push right now. She's still technically part of NXT, but she's been on the last couple of shows on Raw and SmackDown last week. Singles match here, and I actually thought it was a pretty solid match here for a SmackDown match with a newcomer. Lash got in some early offense. She did the pump kick and a splash, but Piper quickly gained the upper hand, used her power. Lash struggled, but eventually she was able to body slam Piper, and then Chelsea Green got on the apron, and Jakara Jackson, who was out there, threw Chelsea into the barricade. Piper took advantage of the distraction, but Lash was still able to recover from that and she hit this very innovative finishing move, although Piper basically had to jump into it. So it was kind of like Lash picked up Piper in like a reverse Samoan drop position and then slammed her to the mat. It was unique. It was a unique finisher, and the crowd popped for it. Lash Legend got a really good reaction for this, and this was, as I like to say, a good first impression. I always say first impressions can really make the difference in WWE. You can come off looking like a star right away, but if you have a bad showing, the fans might lose interest and be like, next. It was a very strong showing for Lash Legend, and could be where she ends up on the main roster in the near future. We'll see. And shout out to Hamp Kano, who sent in a $2 super chat, says, it would be interesting to see Sami Zayn join before Jey Uso. Well, thank you for that, Hamp. I appreciate the super chat. And it'll be interesting to see where Sami Zayn fits into all this. We still have some time. We still have over a month until Survivor Series. So if they bring in Sami as the fourth guy for Roman's team, will he be the first one in before Jey? That remains to be seen. We'll have to see what happens with that. Now, backstage, Jimmy Uso was with Roman Reigns, and Reigns said it's time to do things his way. He said he's going to fix things, and he said he's going to go out there. When Jimmy asked how you plan on handling this, Reigns said he is going to acknowledge Solo. Stay tuned. Cody Rhodes, the WWE champion, came to the ring, and they had the Crown Jewel Championship, and I'll give credit to Cody. He's doing all he can. Bless his little heart. He is trying to really put over the title as something special and try to hype up this match as something special, which, it's a big match, but I'm still not a fan of one of these guys losing. But I could see an angle with Kevin Owens being a factor in this one. Cody brought up like past what if champion versus champion matches. Like, what if Nick Bockwinkel fought Ric Flair, AWA versus WCW or NWA, or Goldberg, WCW champion versus Steve Austin, WWE champion. Cody was talking about all this, and he ended up inviting Gunther to show up on SmackDown next week. So I guess they're going to have a little confrontation on next week's show. And that was pretty much it. But then WWE actually showed the footage of not just Kevin Owens attacking Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton last week, but also the footage that Kevin Owens posted on Twitter/X, where Owens was frustrated, vented, said that Randy Orton betrayed him, and didn't even know if he was going to be coming back. So it's like WWE is playing up on the contract rumors that Kevin Owens' contract might be up, and Kevin Owens, is he on the outs with the company now? They're trying to blur the lines with this storyline, and it's very entertaining. I like the execution of it so far. Now, backstage, Randy Orton was demanding a match to Nick Aldis. He wants a match with Kevin Owens at Crown Jewel. And Aldis said he couldn't do it, and Orton was getting pissed. And Aldis made it clear the order is coming from above. And Orton said he knows exactly who he has to talk to. So sounds to me like Triple H is going to get involved in this storyline. I mean, that's what I presume, that Aldis was talking about Triple H being the one to make the call. So this could get really interesting. Like I'm definitely invested in this storyline with Kevin Owens. Like I wasn't before when Owens was still a face, but once they did the angle with the turn and the last couple weeks here, I'm definitely getting invested in it. And I'm curious to see what happens here with Triple H. And Owens will probably face Randy Orton first. It's rumored that they're going to do Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens at Saturday night's main event in December. And if that's the case, we can do the feud with Randy Orton first before Owens gets his match. Now, shout out to Hamp Connell, who sent in a $5 super chat. Thank you for that, Hamp. Says, today in history in 1998, Undertaker versus Kane for the vacant WWE title at Judgment Day. No winner was declared, which led to the Deadly Games tournament. And what a tournament that was. Definitely a big moment in wrestling history. Undertaker and Kane had that great feud back in the day. Now they're endorsing Donald Trump for president. Vince Russo, who helped put that tournament together, now he's arguing with Phil Mushnick on Piers Morgan's show. Interesting times we're living in right now. And if you want to know more about any of that I just talked about, head over to NoDQ.com and you can check out the video clips. So anyways, let's move on here. We had the debut of the Motor City Machine Guns, Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley. After all these years, finally on the WWE main roster, they had a match with A-Town Down Under and Los Garzas, Angel, and Humberto. Not much of a reaction for Motor City Machine Guns, which shouldn't really come as a surprise to anybody. These guys have basically wrestled in TNA and Ring of Honor their entire careers, never really performed at a higher level. And my guess is probably the majority of the crowd was seeing them wrestle for the first time. But as I mentioned earlier, first impressions, very key. I thought the entrance was cool. The music was not bad. By Def Rebel standard, it was decent. And the whole presentation of them, I thought looked good. I know some people brought up how they should have used TNA's theme, but I thought what they had was fine. I thought it was pretty solid, actually. And the match was good. They had a nice showing here. The other guys tried to go right after Sabin, but Sabin built up some momentum, and then Shelley came in. They did some of their stuff, and it was a competitive match, especially after the break. Each team got in a little bit of offense. And there was even this four-way spot where you had three guys, and then Humberto came off the top with a drop kick. That was pretty cool. But in the end, no surprise here. Motor City Machine Guns picked up the victory with this top rope splash and neck breaker combo, pinning, I think, Humberto. Maybe it was Garza. I'm not even sure. It doesn't really matter. Motor City Machine Guns get the win, and they will go on to face DIY, which should be a hell of a match on next week's SmackDown. And my feeling is Motor City Machine Guns will win that. Will they win the tag titles? I'll believe it when I see it. You know, I feel like they're going to be pushed fairly strong, at least out of the gate, but I don't know if WWE is going to really invest in them as like a top tier tag team. But hey, they picked up a win here. So far, so good. And the crowd did pop for the win, and I think the crowd got into them by the end. Again, I feel like most of the fans are not going to be familiar with them. But after this showing, I think they'll start to pick up a fan base in WWE, and I think they'll do well. I think this should be a solid run for them. Backstage, we had Andrade and Carmelo Hayes being interviewed for their seventh match of their series. And of course, a big fight broke out between them. No shock there. Then we had Nia Jax and Candice LeRae versus Bayley and Naomi. Naomi was showboating a little bit. She was standing on Nia's back, but then Nia quickly got the upper hand for a while, using her power. And then after the break, Bayley tagged in, and she nearly had Candice beat, but then Nia broke up the pin. Naomi went after Nia Jax, and while the referee was distracted, Indy Hartwell sent Bayley into the ring post, threw her back in the ring, and then Candice pinned Bayley with the springboard moonsault. I'm interested in this because I'm wondering, where does Tiffany Stratton fit in? Nia Jax did get a win and looks like she has some new allies now. And will Tiffany Stratton feel abandoned? Will she feel betrayed that Nia Jax has new friends? This could be interesting. I think that this is a nice little twist in this storyline to get Candice and Indy involved and gets them back on TV. So that's a positive for them. And I guess props to Bayley for putting over Candice and giving her a win, because Candice hasn't really done a whole lot other than winning that Speed title over the past year. Now, backstage, we had Nick Aldis appointing LA Knight as the special guest referee for next week between Andrade and Carmelo Hayes. And LA Knight basically saying he's going to call it down the middle, and he's going to do his thing. That's taking place next week. Andrade versus Carmelo, 7th match with LA Knight, as the special guest referee. And we had our final segment of the evening. Roman Reigns coming to the ring. What was he going to say to Solo Sikoa? He said, for the last time, maybe, acknowledge him. The crowd did, and then Solo came to the ring, and Roman said that he doesn't see anything that shows the Bloodline is better than they were before. If anything, they are more divided. And Roman brought up how he told his father, who recently passed away, that he could fix things with the Bloodline. And Roman said he wants to bring the Bloodline back to the promised land, and wanted to know, what does he have to do? And Solo said it's simple. Acknowledge him. And Reigns said he did, in fact, acknowledge Solo. But Solo responded by saying it's not good enough. He said that Roman Reigns has to acknowledge him as the tribal chief, or else. And this set off Roman, because he responded with, or else what? He screamed it. And the crowd erupted for this. And Solo, he laughed. He said, Roman Reigns has never changed, and Solo's not changing either. And he brought out the Bloodline with Jey Uso, who had been laid out by the Bloodline. He was unconscious. Solo tried to attack Roman. Roman fought him off. Bloodline came into the ring. Roman was holding his own, but then he went for the Ula Fala, which had dropped. He picked it up. He put it around his neck, but then he got attacked by Solo with a low blow, and then they beat him down 4-on-1, and Solo gave Roman Reigns the Samoan spike, not once, but twice, and talked some trash as the show went off the air. And that was the end of SmackDown. Bloodline gets the best of Roman Reigns. Once again, no Jey Uso to make the save. So I'm not sure if the Bloodline is going to cost Jey, going back to that earlier super chat, because Jey did not show up. Jey is still disgusted with Roman Reigns. I felt like it was a little odd that Jey would show up and even get involved a little bit in the first place. But, I would have maybe done it a different way. Maybe had Roman Reigns show up and try to talk to Jey on Raw. But I think they wanted to build some tension between Jey and the Bloodline. So it is possible that we could have Bloodline interference on Raw, costing Jey the title against Braun Breaker, and then Jey has a reason to maybe get involved even more. And where does Paul Heyman fit in with all this? I think Roman Reigns did mention the wise man when he was talking to Jimmy backstage. But that's another big moment too. When will Paul Heyman get involved? When will Sami Zayn get involved? There's still a lot more to go here. And yes, I do think Roman Reigns should be acknowledging Jey Uso. Like, he said that he was proud of him, but feels like there needs to be more than that. So we'll see what happens. They've definitely moved the story along, which I'm happy about, that they're moving this forward. Overall, it was a good SmackDown. I give it a solid B. Good show. I enjoyed the Bloodline stuff, and the wrestling was pretty good on the show. Nice debut for the Motor City Machine Guns. I did enjoy the SmackDown. Overall, I give it a thumbs up. B rating for this week's SmackDown. Next week should be a good one. That one's a stacked show. We got that 7th match with Andrade and Carmelo. We got the Motor City Machine Guns versus DIY. We'll see what the follow-up is with the Bloodline. So yeah, it should be very interesting. Brooklyn, one of WWE's main markets. And shout out to Columbia. They were a very good crowd this week overall. And it was a packed house. They had over 10,000 fans in the arena. So yeah, Columbia showing up for SmackDown. Good for them. Thank you all so much for tuning in tonight. If you enjoyed the video, please do me a favor and give this video a thumbs up on YouTube and spread the word about the channel. Tell a friend about NoDQ.com and the channel. Any word of mouth is very much appreciated and really goes a long way. Even just one person you know, if you can bring them over to NoDQ, that can make a huge difference. So thank you guys again. Have a great weekend. Stay safe out there as we get closer to Halloween. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you guys soon. We'll have Raw next week, and then we got the No DQ review next Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. Tune in for that, and if you missed it, check out No DQ Lunch Break, where I talked about some of the news of the week. That's up on the No DQ channel, available on demand. Say yes to NoDQ.com, and I will see you all next time.